Hello, everybody. My name is Sven, and I have other games to talk about. So, I was a pretty big fan of The Witcher 2. I actually never finished it because I sold my Xbox 360, but I thought that it was probably one of the most interesting games that I'd really played in that kind of setting. And the combat was completely different from any games that I'd really seen in that it was very unforgiving, but fair if you knew how to play it. And it didn't really hold your hand that much. It was completely fine with screwing you over. And I recently got my computer up and running, which I'm probably going to have a video coming about that whole goddamn ordeal. And one of the first games I really purchased was The Witcher 3 because, well, how better to test out a new computer than a game like that? And something that I've always said about medieval settings is that for the most part they bore me. It's one of the reasons that I didn't get into Dark Souls for a very long time. It's one of the reasons that I really don't enjoy a lot of games in that, or any media really, in that setting. It's because for the most part it lacks personality. Like Lord of the Rings has that personality. Dark Souls does have that personality. The Witcher 3 and The Witcher 2 have that personality. And they are more so just like the setting of The Witcher. I'm trying to, because of the fact of what is based off of, which is mostly Polish folklore and mythology and all that kind of stuff. It's just so interesting, and the way that they design enemies and monsters that are seen in almost every form of media that's based in that kind of setting, in that fantasy setting. And there are a couple things that I really wanted to address with the game. And first off, vampires. There are like some slight little it'd be spoilers, but not really anything towards the main story. So if you don't want to be spoiled on little things, then later, dude. So vampires, right? They make fun of the way that vampires are for the most part shown in other forms of media. And if you look at their little like lore page, it's like a quote, and it's like, "Oh, vampires, them sissies, I could take them," from some guard's last words. And it's basically this giant overgrown bat that will beat your body into pieces and then slurp the blood off the ground. And it's like little things like that with almost every enemy, with almost every kind of thing, that it really is like way above most other things in that setting. And on top of that, I know basically this is like the year of the open world. And one of the things that The Witcher does really well, that, I mean, even Fallout 4 doesn't really do it that great, I mean, is everything kind of feels like it matters. And it really, truly feels like an open world. Like, each village has their own notice board. Each quest has some sort, like, a quest isn't just there for the fuck's sake of it. And once again, it's not even really a quest, it's like a little event that happens when you're wandering by. And basically, so this dude they're getting ready to hang this guy. And essentially, it's because he belongs to the bad guys. But he's a deserter, and he wanted to disappear. He just wanted to go with his wife and kids or whatever, right? And they're trying to hang him just because he is associated with that other faction, I guess you would say. And I was kind of just trying to stay out of some things because I don't know whether or not it matters. I mean, it could not matter at all, and but I don't know. So I'm like, all right, you guys can do whatever. I'm not getting involved, man. And so they hang him, right? So I go check his body because I'm a piece of shit. And there's a note from his wife. The note basically reads like, "Oh, like, we can go into hiding for the rest of our lives and we can be together forever." And I'm like, oh wow, I feel like human garbage. And almost every quest in the game is similar to that. It really feels like there's a reason for it to all be there and a reason for it to exist. And I know those are two same things. This is like video 3, so I'm kind of running out of brain power here. but everything has a reason to exist, and almost every quest feels that way. There are always some sort of ending, and it always feels like, for lack of a better word, real. And I think that that is a true accomplishment in most video games that, if you're unfamiliar with the phrasing, the illusion of choice, if you think about it, at the end of the day, it's basically a tree, okay? And most video games have only a couple of branching paths that all meet at the same point. Your choices don't matter. But great games make you think that your choices matter. The Mass Effect series is a great example of doing it well. And The Witcher is exactly the same. It always feels like your choice matters. Even though that one guy that I let get hung on the side of the road, that's not going to have any effect on the end of the game. But there was closure in his specific little tiny 2-minute arc that made it feel like it mattered. And I think that that is a huge accomplishment for most things. And I know that this game's praises have been sung from goddamn everywhere. But I expected that I would like it. I expected that I would love it. I just didn't expect that I would be as engaged with it. Like, it is really rare for me to just sit and just absorb a game. Like, I have a lot of ADD, and I like to kind of sit with, like, background noise on a lot of time. I listen to podcasts or watch YouTube videos in the background of when I'm playing games. And a lot of the times I find myself just pausing those things and just sitting there and playing the game. And I really just, I love it. And the overall design, I kind of feel similar, not necessarily as strongly about it as I do with Bloodborne, but the art design is just so goddamn on point. And I think that those guys need raises. All of them. Just give them raises or something. But beyond that, I think that most games, and even the earlier Witcher games, are extremely guilty of this. Most games like this have like a very big problem, and I'm going to compare Dragon Age to it, right? Dragon Age combat feels like an MMO, in that you queue up attacks and kind of do their thing. And I believe the older Witcher games were like, or at least Witcher 1 was like that. Witcher 2 kind of moved a little bit closer to the real-time combat, but this game, it feels like the combat is closer to Dark Souls if you had more options. I don't want to call it more fleshed out or more whatever, or better or worse. If you had more options. And it's really fun to fight different enemies. It's like really, really satisfying to fight different enemies that require different strategies, right? Because you have two kinds of dodges. Like, you have your little dodge, like, that has, like, less invincibility frames, but doesn't cost stamina. And you have, like, a roll, which costs stamina, but has more invincibility frames. So it's all about this kind of... I'm trying to think of the best way to put it. Like, rock, paper, scissors game, where you're always trying to figure out what is the best solution to the problem. And it, once again, I'm going to use the word, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It's engaging. It really feels satisfying. I guess the best way to put it is it does feel very similar to the way that I feel when I play Dark Souls. When you're fighting like a giant, like, griffin or something that you probably shouldn't be fighting at this level, and you beat it just from being good enough, it feels exactly like people feel about Dark Souls. And I think that this is definitely like the culmination of the series so far, because I never played The Witcher 1, but I did play The Witcher 2, and it was like really good, but I did feel as though the combat was super unforgiving, and I loved that about it, but at the same point it wasn't quite as fun. But this is just on another level of fun. You know, the thing that we all play games for, fun. And I love the characters. The characters are all incredibly well written, and it actually makes me give a shit about them. I think that Geralt is probably one of the more interesting. I think that in this day and age where everybody wants to role play and everything, I think that it also just takes a bunch of balls, so many balls, to just say, nope, you're playing this character. Tough. And what it does is it allows that one character to have more personality. And I think that, he's that average, like, gruff guy with the voice like this, but it works, and it's friggin' hilarious. Like, if you choose dialogue options that are just completely out of character for him, it's almost as if he knows, and he just doesn't, like, he'll say it sarcastically because he's like, I guess I have to do this then. And it's just, the writing is so good, and just, I guess everything is just very solid. And when everything is solid in a video game, it really comes together. You know what I mean? I don't think that this is quite as good as, like, a lot of people say that it's, like, the best game ever. But I think that what it is a game that is just so mechanically solid. A game that the voice acting is all solid, the writing is solid, the designs are all solid. And it comes together as just a really, really good experience. And I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I'm only, I think 20 hours in, so I still have a really long way to go. But I wanted to mention it here because it is just something that has really pulled me in.